Was Dryden Vos almost a Lasat like Zeb Aurelius from Star Wars Rebels? If Dryden Vos was an alien, would that have improved his character? I discuss all this and more, but first, I'm Mike, and I want to welcome you back to Force Within TV, where we love chatting Star Wars movie and animation theories, and we'd love you to join us by subscribing. But before we go any further, I do want to say this video will contain spoilers for Solo, so if you haven't seen the movie, check out one of my other videos. But getting back on track here, if you haven't heard, in the recently released book, The Art of Solo: A Star Wars Story, it was revealed that the character of Dryden Vos was going to be an alien in early production. And there were actually several concept sketches that suggest that Dryden Vos, the character Dryden Vos, was going to be a Lasat, exactly the same race as Zeb from Star Wars Rebels. In fact, Michael K. Williams originally could have been that Lasat. Remember, Williams was actually hired to take on the role of the main villain in Solo, but he was replaced by Paul Bettany after Williams couldn't commit to the movie's extensive reshoots. But the fact remains here that Lucasfilm was thinking of using a Lasat in live action, and the future seems very bright when it comes to the crossover between Star Wars animation and Star Wars movies. So in this video, I have Nick from the official Bossk channel come on and help me discuss this and a lot more. So let's get right into it here, Nick. My first topic for discussion is, would you have liked to see Dryden Vos as a Lasat? You know, personally, I think it'd be another cool connection to Star Wars Rebels. Paul Bettany did do a great job as Dryden Vos, but it just would have been amazing to see a Lasat on the big screen. What are you thinking here, man?
I totally agree with you on this because with Star Wars Rebels now ended, I think more people do want Star Wars Rebels like either in a comic form or even more cameos on the big screen. And with Dryden Vos looking like a Lasat in the concept art where they were going with it, it would be a very cool connection. And I totally agree with you. Paul Bettany did do a great job as Dryden Vos. He was probably one of the better characters than the others. I mean, I liked Alden Ehrenreich acting, and Donald Glover as Lando is perfect, but I just love Dryden Vos as a villain. He just makes a great villain, and I definitely hope we do see more of him soon.
Yeah, I mean, he sort of is. I've heard the criticism that he's like a vanilla villain, you know, there's really not much special about him, but he does, you know, he does a good job. Paul Bettany does a good job of being a vanilla villain. Absolutely. So moving on here, we also have Zeb's people in Star Wars Rebels, right? They had a connection to the Force. Would it have been cool, do you think, to see Lasat, this Lasat character, you know, replacing Dryden Vos? If he had some sort of dark side connection to the Force, obviously that could have connected him even more to Maul, right? And even, you know, there is the point that Han says, you know, he doesn't believe in the Force and A New Hope, but I always sort of thought that that doesn't mean that he doesn't necessarily mean, or, you know, he hasn't run into any Force users. It just means that he was able to defeat them using his blaster, right? He says something to the effect of, you know, you just need a good blaster to get you through the galaxy or survival, right? So what do you think about that one?
I mean, it's kind of cool. Now, if you look at Dryden Vos' office, we kind of see a lot of Sith stuff surrounded. Apparently it's Coon, who is a really well-known Legends character. There's a reference about him in Dryden Vos' office, along with the Sith holocron that we do see in Star Wars Rebels. Now, it could be the same holocron that we do see in Star Wars Rebels, but maybe different. Yeah,
no, I think it is definitely different. It looks like it's larger than any holocron we've ever seen. In the guide, it mentions that it was repaired and that Dryden is actually waiting to give it to somebody, perhaps like Maul, as some sort of gift. So, yeah, very interesting to see that. A great connection to Rebels and the holocron. Great to see a holocron on the big screen, too. Absolutely. But moving on to our next topic here, what do you think this means for Star Wars animation fans? You know, we've seen Maul now on the big screen. And I know some people are going to say, well, Maul, he was in the movies already. But I mean, that character was really developed in the animation series, the Clone Wars, and then even more in Star Wars Rebels. So I think of him more as an animation character. But, you know, what do you think about the future of these crossovers between animations in the movies? Has seeing Maul on the big screen sort of changed your mind here at all, Nick?
I mean, the future is looking bright for these different characters, and I definitely want more characters on the big screen, like Ahsoka Tano. Now, the way that they could possibly bring Ahsoka on the big screen is that they could have the unfinished Clone Wars episodes with Ahsoka and change them to a live action movie. How Ahsoka went back to Mandalore to try and free Mandalore from the Death Watch, of course, and then we had Maul there, and they kind of got into a fight, but then Order 66 happened, and Rex did save Ahsoka's life. So it'd be kind of cool to tell that story in live action TV, not live action TV, well, could be possibly live action TV, or even being on the movie. Now, I know that someone does want to play Ahsoka on live action in real life, so it'd be kind of cool to see Ahsoka in live action, along with maybe a Boba Fett film. Now, we know that the Boba Fett film is in the works, and Simon Kinberg is, of course, writing it, so it's kind of like connects more with Star Wars Rebels characters in a way.
Yeah, and that's my next discussion topic here is we know that Simon Kinberg was a producer on Star Wars Rebels. He's co-writing with James Mangold for the Boba Fett film. And, what sort of crossover are we expecting to see from Star Wars Rebels into the Boba Fett film? Could be nothing, right? We could see Hondo, Vizago. Obviously, it's going to be an underworld movie, so it makes sense. We saw in the latest Forces of Destiny that Hondo knows QI'RA, so it would sort of make sense that he's well known and well connected in the underworld, and probably would show up in that movie. Would be interesting to see, as well as, somebody like Kanan, who's just out there wandering the galaxy, and he could be in the film as well. Freddie Prinze Jr. could take on that role as Kanan. Would be pretty interesting. What do you think about that? Simon Kinberg, and co-writing Boba Fett. Are we going to get any connections to Rebels?
Oh, yes, for sure. I definitely think we can either see Seb in Star Wars Rebels, because we know that Seb is actually wandering about the galaxy this time. He was mentioned in the Battlefront 2 campaign, along with maybe Kanan or Hera. Now, if this Boba Fett film is going to be set after Return of the Jedi, or even before Return of the Jedi, we can still see Kanan and Hera wandering about in the galaxy, along with maybe Ezra and Sabine. It's kind of possible to bring all those characters into the Boba Fett film, but the one, if it's set after Return of the Jedi, it will be either Hera Syndulla, Captain Rex, or even Seb, and even Sabine as well. But if it's before, way before Return of the Jedi, I definitely see us getting Kanan or Ezra, one of the two.
Yeah, well, as Ezra at that point, on Lothal, I'm not even sure if he's really alive, but definitely Kanan. Kanan, from the backstory that we have, he was sort of this wandering vagabond, right? He was sort of, he'd just go from place to place, and so he's definitely somebody that could show up. Of course, then it's like, does he use the Force or something? He wasn't really using the Force at that point, or what is his role? Is it just a quick cameo? That's all. I think that's all fans that would want. It's just a quick cameo. He could be a bartender or something like that, for all we know. But yeah, interesting. And I know one of the topics that has come up is people saying, well, is there going to be a Boba Fett movie? The Han Solo film didn't do that well in the theaters. It didn't have the huge box office, turnout, or cash in, whatever you want to call it. And so is there going to be a Boba Fett movie? Is there going to be a Kenobi movie? And yeah, I think personally there is. They're obviously sinking money into having it developed. It's just the marketing. One of the things I think Solo would have done fine if they had moved it back to December. But unfortunately they decided to put it in right after The Last Jedi. So, I think there were just so many challenges, other big movies and whatnot, as well as a lot of people that I've heard talking about this forget about like how little buildup there was to a Solo, a Star Wars story, and what we usually get starting in like September, right? All the merchandise around Star Wars. And I think that's really why we can't have 2 Star Wars movies a year, because we usually have this massive buildup to a movie, and fans who are really into that and really following, trying to read the books and getting prepared for the movie. And, and all this. And Solo did that to a certain extent, but it was much smaller and it wasn't as grand, right? So, and you can't really do that right after The Last Jedi either. So
in a way,
it just really didn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, go ahead, man.
In a way, I definitely see it as being Kathleen Kennedy's fault for releasing the movie in May with Avengers Infinity War and even the new Deadpool movie. Those two kind of blocked Solo from getting it to its place, as we all know that they're saying that Solo is the #1 movie in the world, but it really isn't. They're trying to get fans to make it the #1 movie in the world, which I kind of see it as kind of wrong in a way. But the way that I would prove Kathleen Kennedy to actually release Solo another time would either release it mid-November or even December, as it's normal Star Wars tradition for releasing movies in December. So it's kind of like makes more sense for having more movies in December. Yes, it's a long wait, but it's worth the wait so it doesn't collide with other movies coming out.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? That December release, and perhaps they just thought they weren't really sure. They weren't that confident in Solo, so they decided, hey, we're going to release this early in May. We're going to see how it does. And then we'll get back to December with episode 9, and it'll give people a big break, and there'll sort of be that big ramp up to episode 9, similar to The Force Awakens, coming back to it. Maybe that's what their plan is. It's hard to say at this point. But yeah, that's all we got for you today, guys. So Nick, Official Bossk, let us know what's happening on your channel and where people can find you online, man.
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Facebook. Now, I haven't been posting for a couple weeks, maybe about 3 weeks now. It's because I've just been really busy with college, trying to make the deadlines, and I should be back up and running after the 22nd. I'm recording with Mike on Friday, and that video should be going up next Friday, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah.
Awesome. And the people can also follow you on Twitter, right?
Yep, they can at Official Bossk, and also just search Official Bossk on Facebook and you'll be able to find my Facebook page.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, we're doing a top 5 video, so head on over to the Official Bossk channel and hit that subscribe button. And yeah, thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the channel again.
No problem, man.
And if you've been listening this long, I just want to say a big thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are definitely a super fan of the channel, and you probably already know that I'm Mike, and my goal here is to get you to use the Force within you to make the Star Wars community a better place. And you can do that by sharing your thoughts about today's question of the day, which is, what Star Wars animation character do you think we will see in Boba Fett, A Star Wars Story? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, the best way to support the channel is by subscribing or watching one of these listed playlists or videos. Again, thank you for watching this longer video. Really appreciate it. And may the Force be with you.